So Aleksandre Topuria, the brother of Ilya Topuria, who just had his first fight last weekend in the UFC, has already been given a fight matchup by the fans after his victory last weekend. Uh, the matchup is against another former fan favorite, Payton Talbott. Payton Talbott, a fighter that was raving about for some time until his recent fight against Raoni Barcelos. Before Raoni looked amazing, looked to have potential as one of the most dangerous fighters in the UFC ever. The way he fought was so uh, mentally dominant, is what I want to say. He was so sure of himself in the octagon as he approached opponents. Really well calculated striking. The ground game wasn't like always present; it was more so clinch work. But from what we saw with the ground game, it looked to be there. But more so with the striking, very beautiful. Just very good timing. Outside of the octagon, uh, creative, fashion wise, a more of an alternative style, if you will. But it was very attractive, especially to young fans, young MMA fans is what I'm saying. But yeah, and then he fought Raoni Barcelos, UFC veteran, and Raoni just dominated him. Mostly in the beginning on the ground. Raoni was almost immediately able to bring Payton Talbot to the ground. Uh, like just out of the fucking gate, went right for a fucking single leg, and then didn't give up. Brought Payton to the ground, held him there. Uh, did some work on the ground with short punches, and then kind of just repeated that throughout the fight. While the fight was on the feet, in certain moments, um, in those moments, Raoni was even surprisingly dominating Payton there as well. Payton was trying to get in a rhythm, just never could. Raoni was not nonstop, really good movement. The timing from Raoni was good as well. Raoni was able to land a number of overhands on Payton as well. So Raoni just kind of outperformed Payton Talbot on the ground and surprisingly on the feet as well. And looking at it from a big picture point of view, it just kind of seems like a young up and comer gets his ass kicked by a guy who's been there, by a veteran. We saw the same thing when Raul Rosas, another very young UFC fighter who's really had the spotlight on him for some time. He had a fight not too long ago, or kind of long ago by now, but still he had a fight where he just got pretty much dominated by a older, more seasoned fighter. And he had to bounce back from that, and since then he has. And I'm sure Payton Talbot will as well, as he definitely will need to. This is not the best fight for Payton Talbot, especially if he's trying to bounce back. Aleksandre Topuria, who I just said had his first fight last weekend, looked amazing. The big question in everybody's mind, especially my mind, was will Aleksandre go out there and look like his brother? The question is, does the family power translate? Is his boxing as crisp and tight as his brother? Is he smart, fight IQ wise as well, like his brother, which a lot of people have said he was, because he has been noted as the brains behind Ilya Topuria's camp and his fight work. So, the IQ was expected, but was the body able to back that fight IQ up? Was he strong enough? Was he powerful enough? All the boxes were basically checked last weekend. His patience was great. He didn't lose himself in the beginning. He was calculated and measured throughout the entire fight, just like his brother. They both come out slow, stalking their opponent, not too much on any punch. And then he was able to size up a really nice, I want to say it was an overhand, connected cleanly on his opponent, sent him fucking flying back against the cage. Sure, he could have got a knockout like his brother knocks out people, but he still took his time with his opponent, and he still did everything right. Of course, it would have been better if he was able to get a knockout, but he showed levels on the ground, on the feet. Great performance. Um, the argument could be made that he lost the decision because he was getting leg kicked a fuck ton, but still, in the judges' eyes, the connected punches um, outweighed the leg kicks, especially the grappling performance too outweighed the leg kicks. So I get it. Aleksandre Topuria looks to be the real deal. I think I definitely would need like another fight just to fully certify it, but I will say it's definitely damn well looking like it that he is basically another Ilia Topuria at a lighter weight class, which is dangerous as fuck for everybody else at that weight class. So I would say the bantamweight class has been put on notice, and a fight between Payton Talbott and Aleksandre Topuria, I would definitely like to see next. I don't know. I guess it could be made. I'm just saying because this is Alexander's first fight we're talking about. And Payton is a couple fights up, but Payton did get his ass whooped, so I guess the UFC will probably make that decision to make this fight, especially with Aleksandre being Ilia's brother. He's got the name, so they can pretty much move him pretty high up if they wanted to. But this is a great fight. It's a fight I definitely want to see next. It doesn't matter that these two haven't challenged for a title, or they're not in like the top 5, or they're not considered in the upper echelon of the bantamweight class. None of that matters. They both have, I guess, plot armor would be the word. They both have special significance in the eyes of the fans. It doesn't matter if they're for different reasons. They both have a lot of eyes on them, and they're both relatively at the same level in the division. So it would definitely make sense that these two fight next. How does this fight go? How this fight goes depends on how much Payton Talbott is willing to improve in a relatively small amount of time. Because, like I said, this is Payton Talbott's window to bounce back, which he absolutely can do. But against a fighter like Aleksandre Topuria, I'm not sure if it's possible. Again, it's all based on how far Payton Talbott is willing to improve in a short period of time, especially with his ground game, because that's what was especially lacking when he fought Raoni Barcelos. I'm fucking up last names, but still, that's what was lacking. It was the ground game. The striking. I felt like if the fight had been kept on the feet, Payton would be able to find some sort of rhythm eventually. But it's the unexpected, dragging to the ground and domination on the ground that kind of threw Payton right, like, well off. So I'm sure Aleksandre Topuria can do the same thing. And that's why Payton Talbott's got to improve by a great amount in a short amount of time. Because if Payton Talbott does not improve, a fight between Payton Talbott and Aleksandre Topuria will look very much like the fight between Payton Talbott and Raoni Barcelos. So, right now, of course, I'm going to go with Aleksandre Topuria. On the feet, Payton is gifted. I still think he's gifted on the feet. I still think he's a great striker. He could get in a rhythm against a guy like Aleksandre Topuria. But Aleksandre Topuria, it's that power, man. Although he didn't blatantly showcase the power, he did have a really clean punch that threw his opponent back last weekend. So we all know, every fighter should now know that they cannot afford clean shots against a guy like Aleksandre Topuria. And I'm worried that Aleksandre will be able to get those clean shots against Payton, and I don't think Payton can afford that. But what we should more especially, or what we should especially look at in this fight is the ground game, like I said. Doesn't really matter how it plays out on the feet. Payton could even do better than Aleksandre on the feet in their fight. But if Payton is not improved on the ground, Aleksandre's just gonna fucking switch gears and go to ground game domination instead. You know, if he's losing on the feet, he can go right to the ground game, go for takedowns, single legs, double legs, suplexes even, and dominate Payton Talbott on the ground to get a decision win or even a submission if Payton Talbott decides to panic. So right now, I would go with Aleksandre Topuria. I have to see how much Payton Talbott improves. Uh, I I I'm more of an Aleksandre Topuria fan than I am a Payton Talbott fan, but I do respect what Payton Talbott has done because even though he did get his ass whipped by a veteran before that, he did a lot of really cool ass things. That Cameron Simon fight was amazing. The way he dominated him was amazing, and that still says something. His performances before Rayoni still says something, and they still say something. So, we cannot all collectively lose hope in Payton Talbott right now. But I will be honest, trying to bounce back against Aleksandre Topuria, not really the best situation, you know? So I think Payton Talbot's going to have to really fucking work that fucking elbow grease in or something, constant grappling, practice, training, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I just want to see Payton Talbot better on the ground in his next fight. And if he's not, Aleksandre's going to walk all over him if this fight is made. But overall, you let me know what you think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But most importantly, subscribe. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next.